I'm so excited to be here with one of my favorite authors, Geoffrey Best, who is focusing on probably the most important topic. I don't know if I could say that because there's so many things in the world. If you look at the New York Times, there's so many things in the world that are important. So let's just say one of the most important topics that we all need to address, and particularly inside of companies, a topic we need to address. So, Geoffrey, I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you, Mitchell. I'm welcome. Happy to be here.
Yeah, you're amazing. All right, so why don't you say? Well, first, hold up your book so people could see it, because we're talking about actually having a book. And bring it closer. So it's 42 rules for using AI in your contact center. Now, you can almost take out the word contact center because it applies to any business. But 42 rules, which you wrote, and there are 42 rules focused on using AI in your business. First, tell me a little bit more about you.
So I've been in the contact center industry for probably over 30 years. I've seen a lot of changes from where it first started. I've been through remember the telephone operators where they were on a set helping operators or connect a call, from that all the way through the help desk when needed to call about support, and then understanding what your bill was like. So I've seen the evolution of contact centers through decades, but this time is probably one of the most interesting times because we're now taking a look at a lot of things that people wanted to do over the past decades, but the technology wasn't there. I mean, contact centers are all about efficiency and all about customer service. But they're always looking for ways to maximize the efficiencies of the data centers or the contact centers. So it's an interesting time because AI enables you to do a lot of that optimization that weren't possible just 5-6 years ago.
What does that mean? I mean, I heard those words. I think I understand them, but what does that mean?
So when you call a contact center, and there are a lot of factors that go into a contact center. You will probably have experience if you call a bank or you call a company where you've got a credit card and you get introduced with an IVR now. There was a time when you were just answered by an agent. Then they decided that it was more efficient to put an IVR in front of the call to understand what were you calling about? How do I get you to the right agent? So everybody hates an IVR. I think that's probably unanimous. And a lot of people will now go, hi, how can I help you? Hit 1 for this, hit 2 for this. And the first thing you do is you hit 0. Get me to a live person that I can talk to it. And that's not always the most efficient way of using contact centers because they don't know why you're calling. If you're calling about billing, you might want to go to that department. If you want to go to technical support, you go to another department. So in doing that, the contact centers want to be able to maximize their agent skills. If they have everybody answering every call, there's no way to optimize it. You'll be transferred from one agent to another agent until they find somebody that can answer your problem. So the IVR was meant to understand what the customer wanted and to be able to direct that call to an agent with the skills to be able to answer the call. So then they got into self-service. And self-service was the IVR wants to give you the answer. And so there were a lot of places out there that will say 1, and you'll say your balance is so-and-so. Your bill is due on so-and-so. That's an IVR. And it's responding to the customer because now I don't have to use an agent. So then you get into customer and contact center metrics. How long did it take to answer the questions on the call? What was the after call wrap up? How long did you have to wait before you got an agent in the contact center? All of those metrics are meant to make the contact centers more efficient. AI is now going to bring a different dimension. With artificial intelligence, rather than having the IVR, the artificial intelligence is going to listen to what the customer wants, understand the intent of why he wants to call, understand his level of frustration. Is there a level of anger there that maybe I need to address? And if it's an easy call, I'm going to send it to one level of skilled agent. If he's really unhappy, I'm going to send it to somebody else.
Yeah, that's, by the way, that is so amazingly cool to think about this. So think about this: you're running the company. So let's talk about a 10,000 person company with a traditional contact center, and and I know that person doesn't want to admit it, but they're thinking about their contact center as a cost center.
Mm-hmm.
But now imagine you can put in some intelligence that it's sort of a pay for it once, it's not and you're now directing to, because there's some contact people who are phenomenally better than others. And so now you could direct to the right person. What have you seen in terms of satisfaction from because right now you're still at the understanding it and you're doing a deployment yourself. So what have you seen from satisfaction levels of deploying AI in a contact center?
Well, that's interesting. When you call a contact center, you're very optimistic that you're going to get your problem resolved. So you're at a satisfaction level of, let's say, 100%. It can only go down from there. Very rarely does it go up, because when you call, you expect your problem to be answered. How the call is answered, having what the skills of the agent to be able to answer your problem, all depends on the level of satisfaction of the caller. If your problem or if your issue is quickly resolved, there's going to be a high level of satisfaction. There's a lot of places in contact centers where you're going to be sent to the wrong agent, and they didn't have the skills. They don't have the database to be able to access the information you're looking for. That creates frustration. In artificial intelligence, if designed properly, it will have the access to the information to be able to respond to the customer very quickly and very accurately.
All right. So I'm going to have to say so this book is a very easy read. It's a book that is part of a series, the 42 Rules series, and it's in essence 42. And if you open the book, it's got both pages where you're reading it. And I went through the 42 rules and I picked up two that I particularly like for very specific reasons. And I'll share two, and maybe I could share them and you could talk about them a little bit. But rule number 10 is to use emotional intelligence. Okay, so I'm going to say that would be pretty powerful for any company to use emotional intelligence with their customers. And that leads to rule number 33, which is to measure customer experience. Mm-hmm. And as much, I like those two, because when I look at companies, those two things, as simple as that sounds, are typically not deployed. And to be able to build that into your contact center through AI, what do you think? Tell me more.
Interesting rules to pick up on it. First of all, nobody calls a contact center unless you have an issue. Nobody's calling it to say, gee, it was a great product. I love it. Thank you. Click. That doesn't happen. If you're calling a contact center, you have a problem that needs to be resolved. You can call, and if it's a high stress situation, you're going to be excitable. You're going to be frustrated. There are a lot of emotions that go along with that call. Humans know how to pick that up. We know that because in talking to different people, you can tell if somebody's frustrated, if they're angry, and human agents are trained on how to handle that. AI can also be trained to handle that. It knows if through the sentiment of the call, Is this person excited? How do I calm him down? How do I give him the information that he was looking for to bring this problem to a solution? So it becomes very important, but it takes a little training to be able to do that. Just like you have to train agents on how to handle an angry customer. AI has to be taught the same thing. And then what do you do with that angry customer? Because in a lot of occasions, it's not just giving the customer the data. He may want special treatment. He may want to have something that's unique, that he feels is unique to him. So you need to be able to put that into the context of the call and say, hey, listen, I'm speaking not that, but we know you're frustrated. We know you've had a problem. We're going to provide a month free of whatever subscription you were calling about, for example. That's the emotional intelligence. It's understanding what the caller feels and then how to handle it. By the way, there's also a situation where if the AI feels that it's so terse, I'm going to escalate to a real human agent and let the real human agent handle the call. And that's important to do because AI, as it's still emerging, is not going to be the answer for all calls until it becomes more sophisticated.
Yeah, it's interesting. So let's back out for a second. So it's 42 rules for using AI in your contact center. And for those listening, thanks for joining us. Right now, the Kindle version is priced at a low price of 99 cents. Please feel free to pick up a copy. If you want the physical copy, do that as well. And if you decide that you want Geoffrey to talk to you or you need a bunch of copies created and signed, reach out to Geoffrey or reach out to me, and I'm happy to make sure we facilitate that. First of all, I don't know. I'm just going to step back for the beginning. Is there a contact center that should not be using AI in what they do?
That's an interesting question. I think high-touch contact centers where there are unique questions that are being asked need to stay with human agents. And just to kind of give you an idea, calling your doctor, calling a nurse, there's a situation where you don't want AI. You need to have somebody with a lot of experience. It may get to that point to where they have that ability to answer the calls, but for the time being, I think that personal touch is going to be important to maintain. You don't want to call your doctor and find out that you're talking to an AI machine. You want that connection with a doctor to help you through what other issue you have.
By the way, thank you for being even keeled on that. And I get frustrated, by the way, when I call the bank and I get AI and it tries to figure out something, and I don't think it's really AI. I think it's just a routine set of menus with voice activation. How does that?
That's correct.
Okay.
You are correct. There's a lot. So let's go back for a second because IVRs have the ability to do what they call automated speech recognition. I understand what you're saying, but that's not artificial intelligence. It's very programmed with a response. And that's probably what you're doing. I've gotten the same thing. Please tell me your number. And you put in the number and okay, and who do you want to talk to? And you select who you want to talk to. You go to the agent and what's the first thing they say? What's the number? Like, well, wait a minute. I just answered that. I entered it in the phone. That can create frustration. So sometimes in situations like that, the IVR is not helping you. It's actually hurting you. And artificial intelligence will have the ability to look into the database, understand what the problem is today, see if there were any prior problems that were resolved, because this may be a recurring issue, and then respond to it with a level of intelligence. It's interesting when humans answer the phone, they don't always have your complete history with the business that you're dealing with. They may not have known that, hey, I just called 5 minutes ago about this problem. I got cut off. I'm calling back, and you're faced with repeating the entire problem again. to the agent. Frustrating. AI is a machine. It's going to know the context of you calling and prior calls and a lot about who you are. So that's the other part of the information. Who are you? Who are you calling? Do I know you? Or if you want to be known. For example, and I use a
by the way, I'm going to interrupt for a second. I'm going to say that's really impressive because when you randomly call somebody, even if it's a human, they may not easily have access to all of you, your past history, things going on. And so in this particular case, the AI will have more information AI doesn't really have fingertips, but at their fingertips, right?
You know, I called there was a TV show on that was selling products. And I bought a product from them, a mop, as it turned out to be. And a couple of years later, I called them again on another product. And the first thing the agent said was, by the way, how do you like that mop? Wow. Instant connection. You know who I am. You know what I'm buying. That establishes a rapport between the customer and the business that most contact centers do not have. That's where artificial intelligence can help. It has the data. It knows who you are and why you may have called before and what may be the answer to the problem that you have today.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me about what's your favorite rule?
So I will have to tell you that my favorite rule is 42. And that is
it's one of my favorite numbers. It's the reason for when Laura Sokola and we created this series. It's a reason for 42 rules because it's 42 by the way. It's Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. 42 is the answer to life, universe, and everything. So I'm glad you like rule number 42.
So there is so much left to be developed in AI, but at least where I see AI going is avatars on a video conference call that can interact with you so that you can't tell whether you're talking to a human or you're talking to a machine. And that actually goes back to the Alan Turing test from the 1950s of not being able to tell whether you're talking to a machine or a person. That was the Turing test. But I think we're coming to there. There are a lot of products that are out there today that are creating avatars and talking avatars. And it will get to the point to where you'll feel comfortable talking to a machine. Because right now, I think a lot of people will say, I don't want to talk to a machine. I want to talk to a human. But if you don't know if you're talking to a machine, then maybe you're just going to be just as satisfied as if you were talking to one.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that customer satisfaction will go up because the machine has a lot more information at its, to use the word, fingertips than agents have on a screen.
All right. So tell me why you like 42. I know you did a little bit, but tell me a little bit more. What is that? What's the name of the rule? And tell us a little bit more about it.
It's generative AI avatars in mixed reality. So there's a lot of technology that's out there. I'm sure everybody's heard about virtual reality, augmented reality, but the avatar on the screen is your mixed reality. It's artificially generated images that will talk and understand you and know who you are. Now, it's interesting that the gamers are already familiar with this technology. There are what they call non-playing characters in games that will converse with you during the game and kind of get to know you. Those characters are beginning to understand who you are and what your profile is so that they can have a good conversation with it. So I think what you see right now in almost the gaming world is going to creep into the customer service world.
Nice. Oh, very cool. So what's next? I mean, we have this book where I guess inside what you could say, let's say inside your company with other people, what's been the reception so far of those who have reviewed it for you?
Well, it's interesting because I think AI is on the top of everybody's mind right now, and there's a lot of conversation within the organization about how do we use it, what do we use it for, how do we govern it? Because there's a lot of questions about security and compliance that all organizations need to be aware of. So I think there's a lot of discussion, at least in the organization that I'm in, as to everybody thinks it's great, but how do we move forward with it? Which was the title of my next book. But so I think there's still that beginning phase of a company that says, I need to understand what I can do with it. I need to understand how to manage it. AI is not a once and done thing. It's a constant update. It's a continuous learning process that you have to nurture so that it becomes self-sufficient, if you will, to learn on itself.
Mm.
And I think I've used this kind of analogy before. Think of a 2 or 3 year old with all of the information in the world, or all of the information on your customers. You have to train it. You have to let it know what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. What can you say and what can you not say? And how do you say it? The emotional intelligence. A lot here.
Oh, I love that. So first of all, share, you have, I think, not just one, but 2 books you're thinking about. Why don't you, and then we're going to get to Jonathan Samuelson had a question. So we'll get to his question
Sure.
in a second.
So-
What's next?
So the next book is that hopefully will come out in the early January, February is 42 Rules for How to Plan AI in a Contact Center. And I think that that's an interesting topic. It goes a lot deeper because there's a lot of planning that goes behind deploying artificial intelligence. And I would say that one of the biggest things that you have to take a look at is the quality of your data. So I think there's a lot of emphasis on how do you scrub the data, how do you manage the data, and how do you continually teach the machine with good data. As a matter of fact, one of the chapters I had in this one was AI hallucination, that comes from the fact of when the computer gets incorrect data from a previous bad data and can say it with authority, it may sound real to you, but it really isn't true. And so that's where the next step comes into how do you avoid AI from misrepresenting what you want to tell your customers.
And so, Geoffrey, we've got using AI, planning AI. Is there a trilogy?
There is. It's going to be how you deploy AI. And I will tell you that right now I'm in the midst of a project that's doing this. So as I get a little bit more experience in that process, I'll be writing it down and putting it in another book.
Okay. Thank you. And I'm excited about working on that with you. So the question from Jonathan Samuelson is kind of a softball question. And I'll answer it first, but then you'll give it a real answer. What's the most difficult part for a contact center to get started in using AI? Jonathan, buy Geoffrey's book. Maybe that's the most difficult part. I'm just kidding. But you should get a copy of his book.
Oh, no, that's a good question. The most difficult part is understanding what you want to do with it. How do you want to use AI in your contact center? There are lots of different ways of doing it. You can use it as a preliminary kind of a who's calling and why are they calling. You can use it for something like in a contact center, summarizing the call so that there's a record of what happened in it, which, by the way, AI is very good at right now. And then you've got another step that says, I want AI to assist the contact center agent by letting AI kind of be a third party in the call and then prompting the agent for what he should be saying. And that will drive up both confidence in the agent, customer satisfaction, and just improve the contact center at all. And then there's the ultimate step that says, I want AI to come in, I want it to answer the call, and I want it to interact with our customers so that I can have the same type of service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
It's so funny. I kind of thought that was a softball question. And as you answered it, I'm like, yeah, no, it's not. It's very simple. Your answer is, if you don't have the end in mind and you don't know where you're going from A to B, how could you possibly plot the path to get there? So it's very simple and very powerful.
And there are a lot of products that are being introduced into the industry right now. So I would say that you would need to carefully evaluate the products for what they can do, and not just for the products for what they can do today, but for what the products can do tomorrow. Because if you could make this commitment to an AI platform, you have to be in a position to allow it to grow, to be able to do more things, to nurture the data behind it, and to basically become more human-like.
Amazing. Is there something that we didn't talk about regarding the book or your plans that we really should have?
Well, I think the book covers a lot of topics, and it's difficult to talk about all in one session. But I would say there's a journey there that organizations should be looking at, and they need to understand the various steps that they're going to need to go through in order to be able to take advantage of what I describe in this book. They'll need to understand how to plan for it and what they need to do to prepare for implementing it and deploying it.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up for the day?
No, thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you are most certainly welcome. And I know I said this in the green room. You look amazing. I love the vest, and it's perfect.
Yeah, the vest is kind of a trademark for me.
Is it really? How long have you had that trademark? The hat's the trademark for me. So.
Oh no, the vest, decades.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. Well, yeah, Geoffrey's an amazing human, and this book is powerful. And having looked at the second one, it is equally so. I think you get a really amazing, even keel approach with a lot of the nuggets of learning that you've gathered so far. And as you could hear from just this interview, Geoffrey's not all rah-rah to make this happen. You're going to do this for the right reasons. You need to ask yourself and have the company behind it for the right reasons and to have the right expected outcome. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
If you don't need it, take a very careful look at what you're trying to accomplish, because there are a lot of things that can be accomplished without AI. But if you do have the proper problem, then AI can serve you very well.
Yep. So I'm going to, I'll also say to everyone who's here, thanks for sticking around. I also put it again in the chat. We're running an Amazon campaign for this book. Please pick up a copy. If it's just to be polite, pick up the Kindle version for 99 cents. If you actually want to sit down and read it, like many of us, physical works. So pick up the paperback copy. And if you see Geoffrey somewhere in the hall or at a conference, have him sign it. Geoffrey Best, thank you so much for joining me today. All right. Hey, take care, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.